This is an Ice Guys Patreon exclusive.
Welcome to another Ice Guys team season preview video as 32 teams in 32 days rolls along on Patreon to get you ready for the start of the season. Ian Cameron and Alex B. Smith with you, and we are talking New York Rangers. We make a point of it not to play favorites with our Ice Guys family, but we'd be lying if we didn't say he is one of our favorites, and he's joining us, of course, New York Rangers fan. You know him, you love him. John Massey back to help us out to talk about the New York Rangers for the upcoming season. John, how's the summer been? You excited for Rangers hockey? How are you? Things good?
Things are great. Had a great summer. Was drumming in France for 3 weeks. So I got away in August, was in Lorient, which is an unreal experience, playing for a festival which had almost 1 million people for 10 days. So that was fantastic. This might be the least excited that I am for a New York Rangers season since, the dark days of pre-Hank, which is, and this isn't to say that they're completely hopeless, but it's just really such a cluster throughout the entire organization from the top on down that if I really wanted a soap opera, I'd stay home in the afternoon and watch After the Price is Right on CBS2 and not, I prefer it not with my hockey team.
There you go. And that tells you all you need to know about just the lack of, I guess, anticipation. And I'm sure you're not alone with that sentiment after what we saw, obviously, from the New York Rangers last season. And you're right. We were saying before that you started the recording this that it's just a lot of change. There's some player changes. There's a brand new coaching staff led by, of course, veteran Stanley Cup champion head coach Mike Sullivan, who knows a thing or two about trying to deal with a veteran group, which he's got here with the New York Rangers. And, of course, brand new look in the television broadcast booth on MSG, as well as we say goodbye to the great Sam Rosen, who had his retirement lap last year in his final season, and Joe Micheletti, who decided I'm going to call it a day as well. So you've got Kenny Albert and Dave Maloney, who have been together on the radio for many years, now on television.
And have filled in on television depending on who's got assignments. So, the Rangers have been fortunate throughout the organization of having a lot of pieces who can fill in on television and fill in on radio. They are in and out of the booth frequently. Dave Maloney does a lot of pre and post for MSG, even when he then jumps over the radio broadcast. So he's comfortable on TV. He knows the Rangers. He knows the team. He'll share his frustrations with you and be very critical of them when they deserve it, which he did a lot last year. So I don't know how popular he'll be with the players, but that's not the point. So it's still broadcasters that Ranger fans are comfortable with. It will be, but it will be interesting to see who slides into the TV booth when Kenny's on assignment doing one of the other 55 other things that he does.
Right.
So who is the third
guy?
What
else has he got to do? He's got nothing else to do. He's only got Fox NFL, TNT hockey, maybe a little Knicks fill in, maybe a little MLB every now. Who knows? Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So it's wondering who they've used Alex Faust in the past. Don LaGreca does the radio. So John Giannone could be doing it, the play-by-play and sliding in from between the benches. So it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic works because that over the last few years, that was less of an issue with Sam outside of when he didn't travel on road trips. So,
I salute John Giannone. He's good. He's not just good. He's great, in my opinion, John G. And he had tough shoes to fill. The late Al Troutwig did that role quite a bit for a very long time. Yeah. And John Giannone's been great, I think, in that role for MSG. Tough shoes to fill. Like I said, Troutwig
only in a big media hub like New York, where in other previews we've been talking about the depth of defense and goaltending. Here we are talking about the depth of the media and the TV and radio personalities.
It's probably better than the depth of the team.
I always wax poetic about growing up in the New York area, but when you think that I listened to Sam doing the Ranger game play-by-play, Doc doing the Devils play-by-play, and then starting off with Jigs, and then Howie doing the TV for the Islanders, and now Brendan Burke doing the Islanders. I've been I haven't had many bad listens growing up to hockey for local broadcast, but I also didn't hear a lot of homers. There was no question who employed them, but it was also very, almost national broadcast level. Sam and JD was just weren't like it listening to hockey. They were so good.
Which is fascinating in a sense because of the fact of having 3 teams in such close proximity. You could have easily had 3 homer broadcasts and it would have been completely fine. But yeah, so that is a good point.
Right. You could have had the Hawk Harrelson. You could have had the True Blood Sox. Like, no, this is Islanders country. This is an Islanders broadcast. This is Long Island. This is who we are. And
we're gonna Jack Edwards this thing up.
Yeah.
Right.
But instead it's like leave that to Boston.
Yeah.
Like, Boston.
No doubt. So great to listen. We have great things to say about the broadcast. We didn't have great things to see or, quite honestly, to watch. Say or watch about the Rangers last year. It was a tough season for them. There was a lot of turmoil.
It was easy to bet against.
Yeah, they were. It was just, with decisions about, it goes back to when, obviously Trouba, the captain, was jettisoned out. That was really the start of it. And it was just a lot of, I don't think there was a lot of love internally in the dressing room with the players to the front office, with Chris Drury and company, with some of the decisions that were made. And obviously it filtered through into their performance on the ice because, look, it was obviously a very disappointing season for a team that, look how deep they went in the playoffs just a couple of seasons ago. And to just see the difference, obviously, last year where the Rangers finished with 85 points outside on the outside looking in as far as the playoffs, just the Islanders, Penguins, and Flyers finishing below them in the Metropolitan Division, which was the weaker of the 2 divisions last year as well.
And will be this year.
That we're not splitting the atom, figuring that one out. No question. The Metro definitely looks like there's a balance of power issue right now in the East, and that balance is shifting toward the Atlantic Division, maybe even more so. But when you look at the New York Rangers last year, they were pretty much a dead even over-under team, 256 goals scored, 255 goals against. The big, I guess, storyline going into this year, it's obviously one of them is Mike Sullivan taking over. It's a guy that had a lot of success with Pittsburgh. It's a guy that's used to, coaching a veteran team, an aging core. He's something he knows he can handle, and we'll see how he can handle this with the New York Rangers. Obviously, Laviolette was in a tough spot because, maybe the word was getting lost from him. But at the same point in time, I think all the internal dynamics really went against him as well. But at the same time, we've seen that with Peter Laviolette in the past, where it starts out great and then it's just a gradual decline and dissension, if you will, with his teams in the past, and kind of saw that here with him. So they make the change. It was just such a terrible season overall. They make the switch to Mike Sullivan. The other storyline is Artemi Panarin playing in a contract year for the New York Rangers. I think he loves New York City. I think he loves playing in New York for the Rangers. But again, the internal dynamics are what's hanging over this hockey team and might make it a question in his mind whether he wants to come back. Obviously, we've talked a lot in these previews about betting season-long player props for the players in a contract year. It's almost like they go above and beyond the call of duty to put up the points, make sure the production is as good as possible. So it wouldn't surprise me to see him have a big offensive season. Now, this is a guy that's been floating in and out of games at times, as we know, Artemi Panarin. But nevertheless, I would expect probably a very good season from him playing offensively, playing for the money. Vinny Trocheck, Alexis Lafreniere, let's be honest, we thought 2 years ago turning a corner, 28 goals, 57 points. But boy, oh boy, his numbers dipped last year. Now, look, it was a down year for everybody, but I think we expected continued growth because we thought he was finally turning that corner, and to see him kind of take a step back was disappointing last year from Lafreniere. We're all big Will Cooley fans. I know I speak for John when I say that. We like Will Cooley a lot on this hockey team. The thing about getting JT Miller from Vancouver at the deadline, too, is you talk about how there was a lack of harmony at times with the dressing room. Well, JT Miller will help that. Leader, vocal guy, not afraid to call anyone out, as a certain Elias Pettersson knows all too well in Vancouver, and not afraid to hold his teammates accountable. Mika Zibanejad, I don't know. We know Mika had a tough year last year, and you'd like to say nowhere to go but up, but that's not always the case. And sometimes when decline hits you, it hits you hard and there's no way back. But, they're going to need better out of him. There's no question about that. A few new Brett Berard I like. You're going to see him in the bottom 6. Adam Edstrom, Taylor Radish brought in. Juuso Parssinen, now part of this team as well. I think there's some potential there as a depth center. Gabe Perreault, I don't want to make a big deal of Gabe Perreault not having a point in 5 games. Give the kid a break. He just came out of college. I still think he's going to be a really solid player for this Rangers team offensively. We saw, what he was able to do in the college ranks. And I think being with this team, breaking with the team out of training camp certainly will help him be a little bit more comfortable. There's going to be a lot of options and battles, I think, for fourth line and bottom 6 spots because, you got this Berard, Parsonen, Radish, Carrick, Edstrom, Brodzinski, Brennan Othman, Rempe, of course, if you want some physicality and maybe some dumb penalties too, but physicality and, to step up for your teammates. Connor Sheary's a veteran forward that's going to be battling for a spot. So there's definitely going to be a lot of players looking for a role on the bottom 6. So training camp, as far as filling those roles are concerned, it should be pretty competitive. On the blue line, Vladislav Gavrikov on the blue line should help, no question. The blue line was what really sunk the Rangers last year. You can't say it was a great year really for anybody. We'll see what Adam Fox can do. Even Carson Soucy, I like Carson Soucy. I don't think he had a great year last season. Will Borgen, I like Braden Schneider, but it seemed like at times he was their best defenseman. And I like Braden Schneider, but my gosh, that can't be the case, for the New York Rangers if they're going to be a really good team. Scott Morrow, who was scorned by me and many people, Hurricanes fans in particular, for his poor play in the playoff series last year when he got in there. They do like him as a defenseman. That's probably a tough spot for him too when you're playing Florida. I mean, that's not easy, but he obviously struggled in the conference finals when he got into the playoffs. Now he's with this Rangers team. And then for depth blue liners, you've got Andre Schuster, Derek Pouliot, Urho Vakanainen, who's kind of fallen out of favor a little bit. Boston, Anaheim, now here with the New York Rangers. And then in goal, it's Igor Shesterkin and Jonathan Quick. And for Shesterkin standards, not his best last year, but we know when he's on his game, very few goalies are better. And Jonathan Quick, who even at his age right now, can still come in there, be a serviceable backup. Now, there's a lot of variance that you get from Quick at this day and age as far as his play is concerned. But nevertheless, he's been around the block, and even with the age concerns, even with, consistency concerns, you could do worse than Jonathan Quick, in my opinion, at least, as your backup goaltender. So, it feels like with the Rangers, they're a team that when you look at from a value standpoint, you kind of want to buy low on them, but there's just so many question marks still, so many just concerns I have about the internal dynamics and harmony with the team, and how it just got so fractured between the players and the front office that I kind of am taking a wait and see approach with the Rangers entering the season. I think you can make a case to fade them again, but you're not going to have that great value after a down season last year to do that. So, I kind of think there's value to maybe buy on them at a low point, but I'm still not that excited about the Rangers, and it's kind of a prove it to me team before I'm jumping in. Alex, what do you think? Though I do like Panarin. I do think that's not a bad option because we've talked so much throughout these previews about how the player in an expiring contract is usually worth a look as far as their season-long player props are concerned. Alex, your thoughts on the New York Rangers?
Yeah, and Panarin is obviously a key point, and that's a good place to start with him being, a potential free agent at the end of the year. We've talked about it in other preview episodes about other top flight forwards who are going to be free agents at the end of the year, potentially, that there could be some movement. And this is a Ranger team, like I said, the rest of the lineup's not that exciting. This is a lot of guys where if you saw them on other lineups, to plug and play as second and third liners, you'd be like, okay, I'm excited about Mika Zibanejad over here, or excited about a JT Miller over here, a Trocheck over here. But just as a collective top 6 group, it just feels like any given night, you could either, like you said, look to see, okay, they got a stacked lineup, they should win this game, or they don't really have enough here, we can fade them and go against them. So I think that's, like you said, wait and see approach is fantastic. I think from a nightly basis, we can kind of not necessarily zigzag the whole year, but we can definitely find ourselves in a spot in a given week where we're betting on the Rangers twice and betting against them twice. And that's kind of exciting to have that with some teams where I've mentioned this before in other season previews, where you want to kind of have a clean slate looking at a team and then build things as you move along. If you like them and you see certain things and you want to, jump in with futures, the fact that we have point totals rolling throughout the year means I don't really have to jump in with a point total right away either. I want to see what this lineup looks like now that they've cleared pieces out. There was so much, internal conflict and turmoil last year. Let's just see what everything looks like on a new clean slate, complete clean record, and maybe this team can still, galvanize themselves, because there is talent here, right? Like, you talk about Igor Shesterkin. Yes, he had a down year, but he's still one of the top 10 goaltenders in the world in my ranking. He's a guy who can steal you games, and I even like Jonathan Quick for an aging veteran. I think that goaltending tandem is still fairly solid. And that's enough to get you through 20, 25 games, right? If you have a good goaltending tandem, you can steal you 20, 25 games. All right, you've got that taken care of. But now, can you get consistency, in your special teams? Can you play better defensively? I'm interested to see what William Borgen does. First year of a big contract year for him. What can he deliver? Can Adam Fox live up to being a top billing defenseman and be a true two-way guy throughout the year and be consistent? Can a lot of these aging guys on the top group stay healthy? We've seen them, stay relatively healthy for the most. But when you start talking about, guys who played a lot of minutes like Zibanejad and a Panarin, those guys have to stay healthy in order for this team to compete and contend. So it's just going to be an interesting, it's weird to see the Rangers in limbo, right? We're usually talking about, okay, we like this team to dominate in the East, or we're thinking, okay, they're missing a few pieces and they aren't quite ready. It's weird to have them in this kind of middle state, see them in this middle state where, yeah, they look like they could maybe be bad enough to be a team that is in the lottery, or they're good enough to make it back to the postseason.
Yeah, there's a wide range of one thing I wanted to bring up with the Rangers is regarding Sullivan taking over as head coach. And we talked about this. There's certain coaches how doesn't matter how good or bad the team was a year ago, they can come in year one and make a difference and make improvement. And I made a point of it to look at Mike Sullivan. Now, Mike Sullivan's only coached two teams, in the NHL, Boston and Pittsburgh. But I made a point of it before we recorded this to go back and look how did he do in his first season as head coach. When you look at the Boston Bruins, when he took over 2003, 2004, which was the season before the lockout it took place, 2002, 2003, the Bruins had 87 points in the regular season and finished third in the Northeast Division, as it was called at the time. When Sullivan took over that first year, they won the Northeast Division, 104 points. They improved by 17 points in Mike Sullivan's first season as Boston Bruins head coach, but then they got knocked out by Montreal in the first round of the playoffs that year. But they did make the playoffs, and they finished first in their division. And like I said, 17-point improvement. And then his first season as head coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins, 2015, 2016, second in the Metro, 71 points, but then played their best in the playoffs and won the Stanley Cup, beating the San Jose Sharks in the Stanley Cup final. So to say that Mike Sullivan has had improvement very first season as head coach with a new team, it's an understatement. He has definitely had improvement, and I think that's something that you could look at as a Ranger fan and give you at least some kind of reason for some optimism here as we approach 2025-2026 season. John, the floor is yours. Talk about your Rangers.
So, to me, one of the big additions is going to be Gavrikov. You're going to see him as first pair of defenseman with Adam Fox. He is a stay-at-home defenseman, which means Adam Fox should be able to join the rush and trust that his partner will be able to hold the fort down while he does so. One of the wagers I've seen 69.5 points for Adam Fox set at his line. He's going to be on the power play for the Rangers. I think he's going to be active under Sullivan moving forward, kind of like Chris Letang was for years for Pittsburgh. So I see Fox going over his 69.5 points as one of my favorite wagers, and I think the addition of Gavrikov helps. I think Braden Schneider is going to have a better year. He played all of last year with a torn labrum. He played part of the season before with a torn labrum. Ian, you mentioned it, that he looked like one of the better defensemen for the Rangers. He shied away from body contact. He averaged about 2 hits per game last year. I think one of that is because the fact that he was playing with a torn labrum. So I expect that to change.
That'll make you shy away from physicality in a hurry.
That will make you shy away. Who will he be paired with? I don't know. And I don't think the Rangers know. Is he a second pairing or third pairing defenseman? I think he's a second pairing defenseman in quality. I just think that they might put Susie and Morgan together and give Schneider whoever the sixth defenseman is. We're talking about defensive pairings. They've talked about putting him on the left side, despite the fact that he's a right shot. So I'm curious to see how they utilize Schneider. I trust Sullivan to do that more than I would have trusted Laviolette. I think Sullivan has shown a better hand throughout his career in managing personnel and trying to put people in spots and be willing to change it if it doesn't seem it's working or if something could be better. And I think that is one of his strengths when you have a clean slate with a new coach. When you look at the bottom six for the Rangers, I want to see Bedard, Perreault, and Hoffman playing. I want to see what we have in them. One of the advantages of moving a piece like Kreider, who you know has been with the organization forever, he always had that spot. And it was there, and he was there on the power play, and he was going to be there in front. But it also blocked you from seeing what anybody else could do. Like the top six has been in concrete for the Rangers for the last 7 or 8 years, that nobody has been able to get those minutes despite where they were drafted on the top two. Like it took Lafreniere 5 years to get a spot in the top six. Kakko never got that chance. And instead, he made his opportunity when you're looking at Cooley, Hedel, and Kakko being a third line at the beginning of last season and in the playoffs run the year before. I mean, Carolina was having nightmares from that line and what they were doing on both sides of the ice with offensive possession. The New York Rangers were 30th in high danger chances against last year. So when you look at the numbers for Shesterkin, he had a down year. They were facing the most high danger chances in the National Hockey League last year at even strength. You had a sub-3 goals against and over a 90% save percentage given those circumstances. This isn't even talking about special teams. So just even strains, high danger chances, the Rangers ranked 30th. Please be better. The problem with the assessment of season point totals is I see the Rangers season point total as 95.5 points as set by DraftKings. I would lean the under because I don't believe in them. And you look at the ranking, I don't think they're as good as the Capitals. I don't think they're as good as the Hurricanes. I don't think they're as good as the Devils. They're probably on a level in some boggle game jumble with the Blue Jackets, the Flyers, the Islanders, because we don't know who. I think they're better than the Islanders. But as bad as last season was, they still swept the Islanders. So
I like how you got that in there. Yeah, just
as bad as the season was, as terrible as the Rangers were, and like they were still in the playoffs.
We still made the Islanders our bitch. We had a terrible season, but we still did that. Yeah.
But the Rangers were still in the playoff race until like completely dropping anchor in the last month. Like, no, we really don't want to do this. Yeah. And I was saying, like, they're hanging around.
They were for a bit. Yep.
Like they're staying and like they win 2 games in a row. And just because of how bad the bottom of the Eastern Conference was when it came to getting into those last couple of playoff spots, it's like, won't somebody please take Montreal finally did, but it's like, won't somebody please just win some bloody games to put us out of our misery officially? Because the Rangers were so miserable to watch. Just heartless, gutless, spoiling the end of like you watched it for Sam and he's like dying on the inside watching this shit hockey. We're effortless hockey where they don't care. It's exaggerating to say they were going through the motions. So I expect Shesterkin and Quick to both be better because I expect the form of the defense to be better in front of them. I think Gavrikov does a lot to stabilize the first pairing defensively to enable Fox to be able to do more offensively, to add a depth of attack.
You get up ice and I got your back kind of pairing is what I envisioned we might see here with Fox and Gavrikov. Yep.
And that's kind of liberating because you're not trying to chase back. I mean, 5 of the top 7 defensemen from opening day last year for the Rangers are gone. There was a lot of drama throughout the offseason last year with the Trouba situation and how that was particularly public. I'll be honest, I never wanted Gordon gone. Drury taking over was the beginning of the drama for the New York Rangers and the backstabbing and the intra-organization drama and soap opera. And now you look at what Gordon's doing in Montreal. So, and now it looks like if this is going south, the Rangers are going to do everything they can to clear space so they can go off and just try to sign Kaprizov or McDavid. Let's be fair. This is what they're going to do. This is how they would move it.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to come to it, and I don't think the schedule and the situation, the Metropolitan Division, will allow that to come to pass. The Rangers have 13 back-to-backs, which is, by Eastern Conference standards, very low. They have 1 back-to-back in which they go from playing a home game to playing in Nashville or vice versa, where they play in Nashville and then come home. Otherwise, it's a lot of Metropolitan Division back-to-backs where they play in Boston one night and they come home and play the next day. They play in Columbus and then they play in Detroit. So they play in Philadelphia and then they come home and play the next day. They have a home and home against the Islanders on back. So, like, by back-to-back standards with this condensed schedule, they play a back-to-back in California against LA and Anaheim per usual. So as back-to-back scheduling goes in this condensed schedule winter Olympic season, the Rangers got off pretty favorably given the regard. When you have 2 goaltenders where you think the defense is going to be better with Shesterkin and Quick, you're not as daunted by back-to-backs. So I think that could actually help them given the season. And when you're looking where a point or 2 could make a difference to make the playoffs or not make the playoffs, 95.5 points, maybe not. Things like that with regards to the scheduling make a difference. I think a whole season of JT Miller makes a difference. It's, I think, a season of Sullivan making adjustments. Everybody's starting from ground zero with Sullivan. Like, you got to earn your spots and see what's going to happen. Nobody's pegged in. I don't think anything's written in marker because we don't have Sidney Crosby. So you look at how they'll be utilized. I think the thing in marker is that Shesterkin will be between the pipes on opening night when they play Pittsburgh. And then I think Gavrikov and Fox are the first pairing defensively. And then we'll see what happens from there. I think JT Miller is the first line center. I think Panarin may be on his wing, but maybe not. Maybe they go back to a line of Panarin, Trocheck, and Lafreniere that worked 2 years ago and see how that works this year. And which then means you're looking at probably Cooley and Zibanejad as the wingers, or do one of the kids earn the spot and they just say, hey, play with JT, let's go. So I'm curious to see how that works. I concur on the Panarin point props, but I also really like the Adam Fox point props coming into this year.
There you go. A couple of point props. Yeah, the Fox one makes sense. Fox one makes sense because he might even be more aggressive, as far as offensive, strengths as a blue liner, which have always been his best attributes. But now even more so when he knows he's likely going to be paired with a stay-at-home, shut-down defenseman, and you're able to maybe take those chances a little bit more often if you're Adam Fox this year. So the offensive numbers could end up coming to the forefront for him as a result of that. But yeah, I mean, I honestly lean a little bit because my first thought when they hired Sullivan and I saw the situation is like, gosh, I can't wait to fade this team this year. I'm kind of pumping the brakes on that now. And I see Sullivan's great track record as a first-year head coach with Boston, 23 years ago. The great job he did. Like, they improved 17 points in the regular season in Mike Sullivan's first year with the Boston Bruins. And then, of course, Pittsburgh, they make the playoffs. They win the Stanley Cup. First year that he's the head coach. Now he's walking into a great situation there. He had Crosby, Malkin, Letang in their prime, Fleury, when he was there. But at the same point in time, like I said, a situation where you've definitely got he had the right mix. He had the right core players just at the peak of their careers at that time when he took over the Penguins, in a ripe situation to have immediate success and win a Stanley Cup. Doesn't quite have that, here with the New York Rangers. But you have to respect the Mike Sullivan year one track record in the 2 previous stints that he's had as an NHL head coach, because there was immediate improvement from Boston in year 1 with Sullivan, and there was obviously a very good first year for the Pittsburgh Penguins with Mike Sullivan as well. So keep that in mind, that maybe he's going to be able to get the most out of this team when otherwise you might think they might have another difficult season. So just something worth noting for sure. Great stuff with John Massey, Alex B. Smith talking about the New York Rangers for the upcoming season. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you hit the like button. Before we wrap it up, we want to shout out our new smoke sponsor of the Ice Guys show, a word from our good friends at Royal Cannabis.
Royal Cannabis, where the kings and queens shop.
Check it out, 20% off. Promo code IceGuys, royalcannabisshop.com. That is your New York Rangers season preview. And again, an interesting team to monitor after the turmoil of last year to see if the New York Rangers can make that, have that bounce back season in the first year for head coach Mike Sullivan. Great stuff. For Alex B. Smith and John Massey, I'm Ian Cameron. This has been your New York Rangers season preview video as 32 teams in 32 days rolls along, courtesy of the Ice Guys.